is I'm going to explain to you exactly what is taking place, what took place concerning me, and what is going on inside of these hospitals, that people, because people are literally ignorant of who they are and their authority and their position under the Father. Because of that lack of understanding, that lack of knowledge, they're losing their children, or they're getting their children end up getting drugged up by the nurses inside the hospital. Now, before I get into this video, guys, this video is not for anybody or everybody. This video is for people that want to see how truth overcomes the deceivers, the liars, and those who have a behind the scenes agenda to literally kidnap children and or to drug up children. Okay, and you're going to see how this all played out and the entire battle that took place. I got 7 to 8 hours of sleep in 3 days period. Same with my wife, who had a cesarean section, a C-section birth, and so she was in a lot of pain, had to endure a lot of things while we were going through this entire process. Now, every image that you're going to see while you're watching this video are just random images from the internet. Okay, I will not use any names of the actual people that are involved in the situation that took place. The reason I will not use any names is because the people, the actual genuine people, the nurses, the doctors, so forth and so on, all the people that were involved are not in any way, form, or fashion wicked. Okay? None of them are. Every one of them that I dealt with were God-fearing people, people that believed in God, and in their heart, they're there to bring these new children into the world and to give them the best potential in life. The problem that arises is with a very wicked policy. Okay, it is policy that is controlling the nurses and not allowing the nurses to see what they are doing to these children. Okay, so again, I will not mention any names because nobody involved understood what they were doing until the end, in which case we got released. Okay, but and many eyes were opened in the process. But this has to be explained, and you have to see how to use your power to get through life situations that are going to come and go in life as you deal with wickedness. And again, it is not the people, it is the policy that they have to follow that ends up taking these children away from their families, their mothers and their parents, or ends up getting them drugged up. And we're talking about what they wanted to do to my child was put morphine into my child. He's 2 days old. Okay? Or take my child away. Now, let me explain the situation to you. We go into the C-section. The baby's delivered. Okay? Everything's legit. Everything's normal. They take the baby. They take him over there, get him weighed, get him all this stuff, do all the things that they do, and then they allow us to take the baby over to the mother where she's recovering from the C-section. Everything's normal, okay, just like it was with the other births of our other children. Nothing different here, but little by little things begin to come up that begin to clue us in that there's something going on in the background. In other words, in darkness. In other words, it's being hidden from us, the parents. Okay, so we finally get moved to our room where we're going to be for the next 2 to 3 days, and where she can recover out and she can begin nursing the baby and all these kinds of different things. And very strange occurrences started taking place. Like, we have to take your baby and we have to go measure him again. Okay, well, we've never done that in the past with the other babies that we've had. Why you need to do that? Why are you trying to remove the baby from us? You've already measured him. You've already done this step, blah, blah, blah. Well, as they say, well, since you were last here, our policies have changed. Now we got to take this weight at this stage, at this hour, at this time. So we're going to have to take him over here. We'll just get him weighed and measured, and then we'll bring him right back. So, okay, we just let him do that. But again, a trigger. Why is this different than all the other babies? The other children that we've had. And then, time keeps going forward, and little bitty things such as those types of things keep popping up that are different than the last babies that we've had delivered here. And it got to a point where there was so much difference taking place, and the baby kept being removed and different things done to him and brought back. And so I began to go with them and find out, I'm going with you. I'm going to go with you, and I'm going to watch what you're doing. I'm going to make sure that you're doing what you said you're doing. And they had no problem with that. So I'd go with them, they'd do their thing, and they'd bring them back. And again, it just kept going, these odd things that just kept coming up. And eventually it got to the point where we went from the day crew to the night crew. And as they were switching from the day nurse to the night nurse, we finally said, what the heck is going on here? Why do you guys keep doing all of these different things? And so the nurse, and this is the day nurse, and again, I'm not going to use names because the people that are involved themselves are not wicked. They do not see nor do they understand what they are doing. Okay? They don't. And they are compartmentalized to where they can't see the full picture of what's happening, and neither could I or my wife until little miracles started to happen that began to reveal the entire picture of what was transpiring in the wings of this hospital. So as it transitioned over, and from the day shift to the night shift nurse, and we asked, what is really going on? You guys are working in deception. You're working in darkness. You are hiding something from us, the parents. You're not telling us something, and you're doing things in the background, and we want to know the truth of what is going on. And so the day nurse went ahead and said, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll do transparency with you. What happened is that my wife had a positive on a meth, had a meth positive on her labs, okay? And this is while she's pregnant, okay? Because they take your urine samples and all this kind of stuff, okay? So she had a positive meth, and then she had a positive, at a later point, a positive amphetamine. Okay, those two things. That's what happened. And so we said, okay, we know for a fact that's not in her system, and we know it for a fact. We both know it. And they said, well, you have a positive, and so we have to go and do these steps and keep a record and determine whether or not your baby is addicted to methamphetamine. And again, we know the truth. They're going down their list. Okay, we've told them that, okay, so we had a positive. It's a false positive. We know for a fact that there's no meth in my wife, and so forth and so on. And the amphetamine that came up as a positive, we already knew that was there, and the reason that was a positive had nothing to do with amphetamine. It had to do with Rededidin or something. I don't know the exact name, but it's a heartburn over-the-counter medicine that anybody can purchase when you have heartburn. Now, our baby ended up being pretty hairy, and as any woman knows, the hairier your baby is in the womb, the worse your heartburn is. And she had pretty severe heartburn during this process, and she was told by our doctor to take this Ranitidine. I think that's what it's called. If I'm wrong, just correct me in the comments below. But that's what it is, and that shows up as a positive. It's a false positive for amphetamine, but it still shows up as amphetamine, okay? But it's a false positive. In other words, there is no amphetamine in her. It's just a false positive on the test. Okay, so now we have to deal with the meth situation. Why is there a meth positive in her charts? So they keep going with their system, and as they go down this system, and now let me explain this to you guys, because this is important, and this is something we didn't quite understand until toward the end, when we started getting in their face. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, we had the police of the town show up because we got very in their face, and you're going to understand why. And because you have to stand in your authority, guys. If you know the truth, if you know for a fact that there was never any meth injected into the mother, therefore it is a false positive. Okay, why it's a false positive and why it's there, we don't know. Neither one of us. Okay, but that's not going to matter in the long term, because the hospital themselves is going to prove it, and that's what's going to get us released in the end. Okay, when we get done with this story. But I want you to understand how this plays out. So they keep going down this list that they have to go down, that the nurses must go down, doing each of the steps along the way to determine whether or not the baby is addicted to the substance for which they have a positive test result. Okay? That's what they have to do this. This is policy. If they don't do it, that's their job on the line. Okay? Understand that. They have to do it. No matter what. If there is a positive, whether false or not, they have to go down this set of policies. And as they go through these policies, they're supposed to show them whether or not the baby is addicted to the substance. The problem is the policy itself. So as time moves forward and they go through all of the tests and they do all of the procedures, and following the policy so that they don't lose their job, it gets to a point where we come up to the day that we're supposed to be released. We were supposed to be released Thursday at some point. Okay? Now, Wednesday night, all the nurses told us we would be released. Thursday morning, the doctor that did the C-section said we would be released. The pediatrician to Karsten, our son that was just born, said that we would be released. An hour goes by. 2 hours goes by. 3 hours go by. We're not being released. Neither my wife Christina nor the baby Karsten. Okay? Neither one are getting released. 5 hours goes by. 6 hours goes by. At 6 hours, they release Christina, but the baby can't leave. Okay? Now, we have been told by 7 nurses and 2 doctors that everything is fine, everything is clean, everything is clear, you're going home. 6.5 to 7 hours later, we're told that we can go home, the baby stays. And I'm sorry, but my baby does not stay without his mommy and his daddy right there by his side, period. End of conversation, the baby leaves with us. We've been cleared by the doctor, we have been cleared by the pediatrician, and all the nurses agreed. Okay? So, when they came in and they said that to us, that's when I began to stand up. And I began to say, look, I see what you guys are doing. I understand what you're doing. And this particular nurse right here is the one that's in error and has been pushing this agenda all the way through this time period that we've gone through. And I explained to them that this baby and all babies are formed and fashioned in the womb of its mother by the hand of God. That is, God is in that womb forming and fashioning a temple for His Spirit to dwell in. He is a child of the living God. And that child belongs to me and to my wife, Christina. I am accountable unto the Father for anything and everything that happens to this baby. And from the day he comes out of that womb onward. And you are not going to take my baby without my will and my consent and let us be discharged and send us away. It's not going to happen. This baby is made in the image and likeness of God. There is no addiction, no withdrawals, no nothing, and you are trying to kidnap my child. And the penalty of kidnapping is the death sentence. Anyway, I continue to go on and to get in their face, as well as my wife. This was a group effort between me and my wife against these basically 5 people. 5 different nurses, including a head nurse. And one by one, they began to break down, cry, and leave the room. Okay? Because we got in their face and we told them the truth, and the guilt hit them. Okay? But they have to follow their policy. They don't have a choice. They lose their job, and the insurance don't cover if they don't do what they're told to do with the policy. Okay? We're not understanding this at this point. We're just putting the truth in their face and having them to deal with it. Well, by the time we got down to the last 2 or 3 people that were in the room, we find that the cops show up. And the cops come in the room with the managers and all sorts of other people. Okay, so they sent their cronies in after us at this point. So now I'm beginning to realize, here we go, baby, we're in a spiritual battle. This is real. His name is Karsten, and the definition of Karsten, the meaning of the name Karsten means follower of Christ. Who runs the hospitals? Who runs the pharmaceutical industry? Who runs the government? Who runs the schools? Who runs the courthouses? Satan, okay? And here is a follower of Christ coming into the world. Spiritual battle. They want the child, and they're going to do what they got to do to get the child. And the policy is what's going to get the child. Okay? Now, I hope you're with me at this point. That you're understanding everything that's happened up to this point. So the cronies come in. That is the officers, the police officers, and they're quote authorities that come up. So here, then I start going off on the manager and getting in their face, and one by one, this new group of people that come in begin to back down and back off and all these kinds of things. Well, I got to the point where they really didn't have anything that they could say anymore to push the issue. So here comes one of the officers, and they had, they got their badge on him. He had it down there, actually one near his belt there, so he kind of bulges his waist out toward us to make sure we see that badge there. And he says, "Now you listen here. Did she or did she not," pointing to my wife, "have a positive meth result?" No, that's not what he said. Let me back up. I apologize. What he did not say, did she or did she not. He said, he stepped up and he said, "Your wife had a positive meth result at the birth of your baby." And I said, "No, she did not, in any way, in any form, in any fashion, and I can pull the record right here, right now, and I've got all the doctor witnesses, I've got the nurse witnesses, even these nurses right here who are all backing off." He said, well, okay, well, your baby was positive for meth when he came out. And I was like, no, he was not. And again, the doctors, the nurses, all can prove for a fact, by lab, by blood, and by urine, and by meconium, which is the poop, that he has no meth in his system. So at this point, the officer said, "Well, the reason I got called up here is because you're threatening these people." And I said, "No, I have not threatened anybody at this point, and I don't plan to threaten anybody. But I can tell you right now what the law is, officer, and this is what I gave them, was the law. I did not threaten. I told them that if they want to kidnap my baby, the penalty of kidnapping is the death penalty. That is not a threat. That is the law." At this point, the officer backs up and has nothing left to say. He has been put in his corner and put in his place. You must understand, guys, who you are. I am accountable unto the Father what happens to this child. Period. My wife is too, but I'm the head of the family. I have more accountability than anybody in that room with the Father. Now, the nurses, the doctors, yes, they are accountable to the Father, but they are first and foremost accountable to their policy and to their insurance. If they don't follow the policy and the insurance, then they get fired, they lose their job, they lose their income, they lose their life, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So they are first and foremost dedicated to the policy and the insurance, and then after that, they are dedicated to the Father, to the Creator. It's very important that you understand what's happening here, guys. It's very, very important. I am 100%, 100 million% accountable for anything and everything that happens to this baby from the time he enters this world onward until he gets to the age of accountability. And I have to give an account when I perish from the earth, from this age, from this earth that we are currently on right now, in the physical earth, where we have the possibility of death or a life. You're alive for so long and eventually you die, and okay, so and in this age, in this time, I have the most accountability. I have to give an account for what I allowed or did not allow to happen to this baby. Okay? I know the truth that there's no methamphetamine in this baby because there's no methamphetamine in the mother. So at this point, I cannot allow them to take this baby and discharge us. You understand that? Because if I'm discharged and they have the baby, I don't know anything at all that they're doing to that baby until after the fact. So we had a big issue and a big deal, and it got to the point where the head nurse, okay, this is the most important, actually it wasn't the head nurse, this is the NICU doctor. NICU, okay, that's where you take the baby when there's something very, very, very wrong with your baby. And the room looks a lot like this right here. This is basically the kind of the setup that we had in our room, and when we eventually got to NICU. Now, how did we get to NICU? Okay, so what happened is I put everybody in their place. Everyone basically backed down, but the doctor of the NICU was talking to me through her eyes, and to my wife through her eyes. We could see it in her eyes. She was saying, please don't lose your baby. Let us take him to the NICU. Let us observe your baby. If not, CPS is going to get called. You're going to lose your baby by legalities, in other words. We could see it in her eyes, literally. And as we were watching her eyes, the words that came out of her mouth was, meet us halfway on this. Let us at least observe your baby for 48 hours to determine whether or not he's addicted or not. Well, I know for a fact he's not. So what I did, and what we did, I should say we did, because again, everything about this was a joint effort. What we eventually got down to after everything, and I'm talking about a non-stop attempt to remove this baby from us. Non-stop, guys, from the day we got there. Non-stop. The battle started day one. Okay, so we get to this point, and at this point, we look at each other, me and my wife, and we both read her eyes. We both, and together, just kind of, I don't know how when you've been with someone long enough, you can just kind of communicate without talking. And so we concluded that what we'll do, we will meet you halfway, okay? We will allow you to observe the baby for 48 hours. However, here's the deal we're going to make. Number one, me and my wife will be in the room for the entire 48 hours with the baby and a conversation. Whatever you do, we're there, we're watching, we're observing, we're keeping record just like y'all. Okay? Now, in 24 hours, if you cannot prove what you're doing, at that point, this baby must be released. Do you agree? So the doctor of the NICU agreed to the agreement. So now we're under verbal contract. So basically we're under admiralty law of contract. Okay, so we are at this point what happens is Christina is discharged, but not the baby. So the baby goes to NICU. Now, there's no rooms in the NICU situation. You go into a NICU area of a hospital, and you have to scrub your hands and wash your hands for 30 seconds. You got to get all the bacteria off you. You got to put on all this stuff. You got to protect all the other babies that are in the room, because some of them are in life-threatening critical condition and legitimately need to be in the NICU facility. Okay, so you got to go through all these processes, and then you can go to your room where your baby is and visit with your baby. And basically what you have is a chair in there to sit on, one or two chairs, and that's and then the rest of everything else in the room is for working with the baby and doing operations and different tests and all these other kinds of different types of things. They are not set up to where parents can stay the night in there and all of these kinds of different things. Now, oftentimes they will allow the mother to stay overnight in these NICU operations, and so usually you have one chair that is a recliner that will recline back into a bed. Very uncomfortable. Is how I slept the entire time we were in the hospital. But we go into this room, and at this point, they put them into the unit. That's this thing right here. This is the units that they put these babies into, and it's to keep them secure and keep bacteria, all the stuff off of them, so forth and so on. And we begin. We at first they're in there, they're doing their thing, they're running their checks and balances and all that kind of stuff, and then they exit the room to go to the next baby. And so me and my wife begin to talk and discuss everything that's happened up to this point. We reminisce, run everything between each other, back and forth, each thing that's happened all the way through, trying to figure out exactly how we got to this point, why we're at this point, on all these kinds of different things. And what we discovered is that because there was a positive, okay, even though it's a false positive, and they assume it's legit because it's a positive on their lab results, okay. But first and foremost, and is that when my wife goes to the doctor, and I won't mention names because the people themselves are not wicked. It's the policy that the Rockefellers and Rothschilds have put over these hospitals that allow the hospitals to kidnap these kids, move them to foster homes, and or drug them up, and all these other different kinds of things that they do to these babies that have that are the children of parents with a positive test result. So what has happened is they used their policy. They followed their policy step by step by step by step by step. And in the process of following their policy, they have come to the assumption that the baby is addicted to methamphetamine. Okay? They did not prove that the baby is addicted to methamphetamine. They have come to the assumption and the conclusion based on their assumption that the baby is addicted to methamphetamine. Okay? The policy, by following the policy, no matter what you do, the end result is that the baby is addicted to whatever it is that the positive result came out for. So if it's for cocaine, then the baby's positive, addicted to cocaine. Heroin, then he's addicted to heroin. Marijuana, then he's addicted to marijuana. Okay, that's how the policy is set up. So that by the time you're done with following the policy and all the steps all the way through, you come to the conclusion of an assumption that the baby is addicted to the substance. Okay? Doesn't matter if the results are right or wrong. That's where you end up by following the policy. And in that process, at that point, the baby is removed from the parents and put into NICU. Now that, my guys, is kidnapping, because they never, ever, at any time, proved that the baby was addicted to the substance. So, now at this point, now this is just me and my wife, we're talking and reminiscing. We're running it back and forth, we're running like the first 3 hours, I run it past her, and then she goes, yeah, but you forgot about this. And then she would run the next 3 hours past me, and I was like, yes, but you forgot about this. And then I would run the next, and we'd just go back and forth and get a full, complete picture of everything that has transpired. And we came to the realization that these policies are designed to create the conclusion that whatever it is that you are positive for, the baby is addicted to. Okay? So in other words, the bottom line is that everything is based upon assumption. There is no proof and there is no evidence that the baby is addicted in any way, form, or fashion. But the policy has given them the assumption that the baby is. Now, the average person, not having any understanding, would end up losing their baby at this point, and or having their baby drugged up, which we're fixing to get to here momentarily. Now, we are about 25 minutes away from going from the day shift nurses to the night shift nurses. Now, most of you guys probably know that in the medical industry, it's 12-hour shifts. So you've got two different shifts, day shift, night shift. 12 hours, 12 hours. That's a 24-hour day. So we're not far away to moving toward night shift. And the doctor of the NICU, this is the one who we read her eyes, don't lose your baby, CPS is already involved. If you reject this, you're going to lose your baby, all this stuff, okay? This is what she's communicating through her eyes, through her soul, literally to us, okay? Now, right prior, about 25 minutes prior to her departing for the night and handing the authority over to the night nurses, they ran their tests, and they came to the conclusion, based on their tests, that the baby's addicted to methamphetamine. And therefore, because he is addicted to methamphetamine, we must begin the procedures to bring him out of the withdrawal symptoms and all these different things that your baby's encountering. In other words, we got to begin right now, tonight, to administer morphine into your 2-day-old baby. 2 days old. 2 days old. Going to start drugging my baby. No, you're not. I said, okay, that's not happening. That will not happen. Let me make a phone call. So I left the room and I called my sister. My sister works in the medical industry. She understands their terminology. She understands a lot of things that the average person wouldn't understand about the medical industry. And I told her, in tears, they're trying to administer morphine to my baby. I don't know what to do. It's out of my control at this point. They're trying to force this morphine procedure onto my baby, who is not addicted to methamphetamine in any way, form, or fashion, and I can't allow it to happen. And so we talked for a while there, and got three-way conversation going on. Got my mom on the phone, my sister. We all got talking about everything, and she gave me some words to say. And when she told me, and I was like, "That's it. That's it. Thank you." So I immediately went flying back up there and back into the NICU. Washed my hands real quick because I got 5 minutes before this head nurse leaves. Okay, they're going to start these procedures against my will and my wife's will to my child that's 2 days old. So I rush up there, take about 15 seconds instead of 30 seconds, wash my hands, do my thing, go flying back there. I go up to the day nurse. I said, "Look, I need the doctor in my room immediately now before she leaves now." It went in my room. Of course, the nurse kind of freaked out. What kind of authority is this? What is going on here? Literally. So she went running over to the doctor. And about a minute and a half later, the doctor comes in the room. She says, is there something I can do for you? I said, yes. I'm sorry, but I cannot allow you to proceed. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I have to give an account to my Father in heaven when I perish. When I leave this earth, or when I'm translated into my new body, I have to face the judge of judges. I have to give an account, and I cannot let you drug my baby up. I can't do it. You have to give an account for your policy, your insurance, and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, sooner or later, yes, you have to give an account to the Father in heaven. But you have to give an account to your policy and your insurance, and that's what you are serving, period. And I can't let you inject drugs into my 2-day-old baby. I cannot do it. I need clarity, and in order to get my clarity, I have got to have I need to talk to Karsten's case manager in this hospital. And this is what my sister told me to tell the lady. And when I told her that, she said, "What? Wait, what? His caseworker? He has a caseworker?" I said, "Every child coming into this world has a caseworker in the hospital in which that child came in. And I need every single record that you guys have on my child. Every detail. Every test, every lab, every urine, everything from from the C-section arrival onward. I need it all, every single bit of it, so I can understand why you're doing this to my child. This is a child of the living God, and you cannot just start administering stuff to a perfectly perfect child. You can't do that. So until I have my clarity, until I have that paperwork in my hand, where I can see exactly what it is that you guys have discovered with your paperwork, I cannot allow it to happen." She said, "Oh, his caseworker. Okay, well, I have to get permission from his caseworker in order to release that information to you." I said, "Well, go ask him, and he don't have a choice. I am his biological father. I want those records, and you're not proceeding before I get those records." End of conversation. She says, "Oh, I can't do that until the morning." I said, "Great. Then you're not going to start administering morphine to my child." "Well, if we don't start administering morphine now, the longer you wait, the worse his condition is going to get, and the longer it's going to go, and all these different things that can happen." And she just kept trying to force it onto us. And I said, "It does not matter until I have clarity, until I see what the heck you guys are seeing that is telling you to do this to my child. I cannot allow it to happen. Period." End of conversation. Do you understand? I have the authority, not you. I am releasing you of your authority, the authority of your policy and your insurance. I am releasing you of it. I am taking the responsibility on myself. You are free of it. The policy cannot hold it against you. I take the authority. Now, at this point, she was freed from her policy. The policy can no longer charge her and cause her to miss her job because the biological father, the head of the household, gave her permission to stand down and to wait until the records released from the caseworker, which couldn't happen till the following morning. So at this point, the night nurse is already in the room listening to all this. I don't have any idea it's the night nurse, but she's tripping out, looking at me like, "Who the heck are you?" You know, and I made it very clear that I am a child of the living God. I am accountable to my Father, who's in heaven. Whether you serve God or not, He is my Father. Okay, I don't call Him God. He is my Father. I am a child of the living God. And this right here is a child of the living God. His name is Karsten, and he is a follower of Christ. That's what his name means. And you will not do anything to my child until I have the records. Till I can see and have clarity why you need to do this to my child. Well, at this point, the head nurse or the doctor needed to go home. Okay, her shift is up. So she can't do anything until the morning. So she passes the authority over to the night nurse. And the night nurse, I didn't know at the time she's the night nurse, but at this point the night nurse, first of all, the doctor said, okay, well in the morning I'll call his caseworker and I'll ask him if I can give you a copy of his records. I said, no ma'am, you can ask him all you want to. He does not have a choice. I am a child of God. He is a child of God. My son is. And I have the authority that I am the biological father. He has to release that information to me. There's no choice in the matter. Okay? I have to know everything that you guys know about my child. Every test, every detail of everything that has gone on from the time the C-section got started. Onward. Everything. Absolutely everything that you have on him. Okay? It's that simple. He has to release the information. I am his biological father. I have full and utter authority over this child. Okay, so at this point, the nurses, the doctor says, okay, you know, that's fine. We'll get it for you in the morning, and then we'll proceed with whatever, you know, the morphine and all the other drugs they're going to inject into this child. And I said, that's fine. And she says, okay. And she headed back to her office. And about that time, the other lady that's standing in the room at this point, which I have no clue who the heck she is, but I know she's a nurse. She said, I just want you to know that I'm your guys' night nurse. I'm the I'm the registered nurse here. I'll be the one doing all the testing tonight until the day shift comes back into the morning. And I'm going to go ahead and step out of the room right now and kind of get caught up on what's going on here. And then I'll come back and talk to you guys after a while. Go ahead and relax and, you know, make yourself comfortable. And I'll go over everything with you guys after a while. And we're like, I was like, oh, okay, well, nice to meet you. Didn't know you was our nurse, and I'm sorry about everything that's going on right now. I just can't allow this to happen to my child. I just can't do it. Yeah, I can't, because I know there's no meth in my wife, and I know for a fact there's no meth in my child. I know my son is not having any withdrawals whatsoever from methamphetamine. So I can't allow this to happen. I'm sorry, I just can't. She said, I understand that. But again, let me just go get caught up on everything, because that's what we do. You know, when we transfer shifts, all the information's got to get passed back. We got to get caught up on everything. And I'll come back and talk to you guys here in an hour or so, and I'll start doing the tests. So when the baby goes in there, every 4 hours, guys, they have to do these tests, and it's a numbering system. They run these tests on the baby, and depending on how the baby reacts to the test, you get numbers. You get a score. Okay, anywhere from 0 to as high as 15. So basically, she's the one that's going to be running these tests all night. Well, let's get back to the story at hand. So the doctor heads back to her office, okay, and then the head nurse goes to talk to her, okay, because they're switching shifts, and the doctor needs to let the head nurse that's going to be watching our baby, doing all the tests tonight on our baby, to determine all the stuff they need to determine. Remember, they got 48 hours. That's all I gave them. And if in 24 hours they can't prove it, we're out of here. Okay, so getting her caught up, and about that time, Cold blue, cold blue. Okay, that's death in the hospital. Then, a matter of seconds after that, fire alarm. Then, after that, code autumn gray. Then, after that, another fire alarm. All heck is breaking loose in this hospital. And the doctor just heard everything I had to say, talking about my Father in heaven and his living child that is right here that they're fixing to drug the heck up. And all this is taking place in the hospital. Now, she goes home thinking about this all night long. And this woman believes in God. This doctor, the doctor that's going home, believes in God. Again, I told you, nobody involved is wicked. The policy is wicked. The problem is the average person running through these hospitals that have their baby, that get a positive and get their baby into these things, and all this stuff, end up losing their baby, or either lose it through CPS and or they get drugged up. Okay, which are destroying the temple of the living God from the get-go. 2 days old, guys. 2 days old. Okay, but this person, this doctor, believes in God. Very God-fearing person. But she's following policy and insurance, because if not, she loses her job. End of conversation. Okay? Yes, she has to give an account to God, to her Father, when she passes away. But right now, she has to give an account for the policy and the insurance. But now, understand that as she's headed home, I have released her of accountability to her policy, and I have released her of her accountability to the insurance, and I have taken full 100% accountability upon myself. And this baby will not get anything put into his body until I have the records. So she's released. She can't get in trouble. So a couple hours go by and the night nurse comes in. And the night nurse is, as far as I'm concerned, an angel. That the father already had this night nurse in position, knowing that we would get the communication from the eyes of the doctor about, don't lose your child. Let him go through the NICU. Let us observe him. Let us at least run the procedures on him and make our determination. Okay? So Father had already put the night nurse into position. And this is a nurse that understands our situation. Okay? Now, she didn't, but she comes into the room and she talks to us. And she sits down with us. And the day nurse, now let me explain something first. The day nurse, not the doctor, okay? The day nurse that was watching our baby in the NICU took us over into basically kind of like the family room, or whatever you want to call it, right there where you can get yourself something to drink and eat and coffee, whatever, you know. There's nobody in there, so we all go in there, and she sits down and she shows us the entire point system and how they evaluate the child to determine whether or not the child is having withdrawals, and how the points, how they determine what points the baby's going to get. And so these points can be anywhere from 0 to 18, 20, whatever. But in order for the baby to be released, in order for a baby to not have symptoms or signs of withdrawal, it has to score a 7 or lower. Now, what they were doing that we were unaware of, this is that deception, this is them working in darkness, this is that wickedness, is that they were following their policy while we were in the hospital. This is after the C-section. This is prior to us going to the NICU. This is when she said, okay, let's have transparency. You got this positive, blah, blah, blah. What they weren't telling us, though, is that when they were taking our baby, they weren't doing these weights and stuff. They were running these numbers on this baby. And it was coming out 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, okay? And all that kind of stuff. We didn't know that at the time. But once we saw the numbering system and we understood what was taking place, and we understood that this operation was going on while we're in the recovery, okay, this is before my wife got discharged, then we realized that this is what they've been doing the entire time, and how they came to the, quote, assumption that no proof, no evidence, no biological facts, in other words, no urine samples, no blood sample, no any other thing, that this child is addicted to meth or having withdrawals from methamphetamine. It was purely and utterly an assumption based on their numbering system. But now at this point, now we're back to normal time here. Now at this point, the day nurse in the NICU is sitting down with them with us, and she's showing us exactly how they run this scoring system, okay? And so here's let me just give you some examples, okay? My numbers might be wrong, but the idea, the concept is correct, okay? Again, none of these people are wicked. They're following policy, they're following their numbers, they're following their what they have to do. So here's some examples. If you unswaddle the baby and the baby is kind of jumpy, then that's a point. Well, don't know if you know this or not, but every single baby ever born, when you unswaddle them, they're kind of jumpy. Every baby. So pretty much every baby is going to get that point. Okay. If your baby has a temperature of 99, okay, 1 degree above normal, 1 degree, 99, that's 2 points. If it's 100, that's 3 points. Okay. If your baby has the jitters, a little bit of jitters in their hands or something, that's 3 points. So this stuff adds up quickly based on what babies do naturally. Okay? Now, what you're supposed to be looking for is it in an extreme form? Is this baby super jumpy when you unswallow it? Okay? Basically is what you're looking for in order to give them a 1. But they mark a 1 anyway because every baby that they unswaddle is kind of jumpy. They're like, what are you doing to me? They don't have a clue. They're only a couple hours old, So they get this point. Well, anyway, so she went down the entire list, explained it all to us, and I was like, okay, wait. I didn't say anything about every baby has all of these symptoms. I didn't say anything about it. Don't say a word, okay? My wife neither. We just completely we just went through it all, and I said, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I see how you do it. I see how you get your numbers. I see how you determine it. And I appreciate you going over all of this with us. I really do. I seriously do. You're a wonderful, wonderful person, and I truly appreciate everything you're doing as far as helping us to understand all of these things that you guys do to help these babies to have the best possibility in life. And as they said, we're looking out for the best interest of the baby. Okay? Well, I hate to tell you, but first and foremost, like I told the officer, my wife did not test positive when she gave birth to the baby. Okay? For anything at all. And the baby did not test positive for anything at all. Okay? In other words, no drugs in the system. So the best option for that baby is to go home with his parents. Period. End of conversation. That's the best option. Okay? Not to be under the control of nurses and injected with morphine and the other drugs that they're going to inject into these babies. Okay? End of conversation. That's the bottom line. So you're not looking out for the best interest of the baby. You're following your policy, which is what you are programmed to believe is the best interest of that baby. So after she explained all that, okay, then again, we had the situation with the doctor, had the conversation with my sister, my mother, and all that kind of stuff. Come back, we switch over to night shift. Now the night nurse comes in a couple hours later, and she says, okay, so what I'm going to do, you guys are allowed to stay here, and you can hold your baby, you can do whatever you want, but every 4 hours I'm going to come and I'm going to do our point system on them and determine what your baby's at, okay? And you can absolutely stand right here with me and watch me, and you can watch me do the test because it'll show on the paper what I'm checking for. I'll do the test, and you can agree or disagree with me as far as whether the number if I give the baby based on the result that the baby shows us when I run the test on the baby on each of the different things, and whatever the number is, it is. Okay? So you can sit here right here with me. I have to be honest. I have to put down whatever the baby does. I have to follow. I have to do that. Okay? I can't cheat for you. I can't do any of that stuff for you. Okay? I have to put down what the baby does. And we said, that's fine. That's fantastic of you. Thank you for letting us watch you do it and determine if you're doing it accurately. Okay? Very important that we are able to watch and determine if that nurse is doing the test accurately, because if this baby does not get 7 or less, he's not going home. Okay? So she goes ahead and she begins the first test. And me and my wife, Christina, were sitting here watching, observing the whole test. And we agree with every result that she writes down. Okay? She writes it down, and then me and my wife look at each other, and I would tell her, yeah, she's right. That the baby did do that. That is a point. And my wife be like, yep, he did that. That is a point. Okay. So we went through the whole test, and this baby scored a 10. Okay, 10. Baby's not passing, guys. So baby is having withdrawal symptoms. Interesting, right? Okay, so we said, okay, we see what's going on here. We see how this works. We see how this whole system operates now. We get it. We see the policy and we see the numbers. And, you know, when the test was done, the nurse said, this is what it is, guys. It is a 10. I mean, you watched me do it. It's a 10. I mean, I can't cheat for you guys. It is what it is. And I said, I absolutely agree. You're right. That is a 10. And my wife, same thing. You're right. It is a 10. Okay. She said, okay, so we're in agreement. I was like, yes, we're in agreement. But now understand he was getting 12s during the day. Now also understand something else that I haven't told you at this point. During the day, okay, when the day nurses were doing these tests on him, now this is before we go into NICU, okay, during the day, the baby was scoring 10s and 12s. At night, when the night nurses come in, the baby was scoring 4 or 5. Interesting. Baby scoring 4 and 5 with the night nurses, but with the day nurses, he's scoring 10s and 12s. Okay, this is prior to going into NICU. Now, in NICU, we are dealing with the night nurse, and the first test of the night nurse was a 10, okay, not a 4 or 5 like it has been. Now, but it's interesting that during the day, it was always a 10 or a 12 with the day nurses. But at night, okay, and remember, we're not even aware of it. We're not in the room when they're running these tests. We're not even aware of any of these numbers until we're told later what the numbers were, okay? But during the day, the morning nurses, the day nurses were coming up with 10s and 12s. The night nurses were coming up with 4s and 5s, passing. Okay? Interesting stuff going on here. Now, again, the very first test done by a night nurse comes out a whopping 10. Okay? Now, our baby is sitting, this is not my baby, okay? This is, again, these are all stock pictures off of the internet. Has nothing to do with anybody involved because, again, the people themselves are not wicked. They're following policy and insurance because they can't afford to lose their job. And besides that, they are taught in the school system as they go through all the stuff that this is how you do it. Period. It's just like any other thing. They are programmed to view a thing a certain and specific way. So if you follow the policy and the numbers, then this is the end result and this is what it is. Okay? So, again, we get a 10. But our baby has been sitting in this unit. We've not been holding the baby. We've not been doing anything with the baby. The baby is basically abandoned because up until this point, really, we haven't been truly in the room, okay? We were making phone calls. We were doing all these different things. We were trying to figure out, okay, this is outside of our control at this point. What can we possibly do? We're out praying. We went to the truck. Out to the truck and prayed on it and all these kinds of different things. So there was a good 4-hour run there where we were nowhere near our baby. And so he scored a 10. But he's here in this unit, okay? And on average, when these babies end up in these units, the parents are not necessarily dealing with their baby. The baby is in the unit, in this unit right here, this thing right here, in the unit, okay? Not in the mother's hands, not any of that stuff, just sitting in this. In other words, the baby is abandoned. And if you don't think the baby can detect that, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. The baby can detect that he's abandoned. Okay? So, but he really wasn't abandoned. We were praying, and we were praying hard. That's also when I posted out on Twitter for prayers and all these different things that I started asking everyone to start sending the prayers up, because the more prayers that are sent up, he hears every single prayer ever prayed, everything. But the more that come to him on a given subject, the more important that subject, that prayer is, because there's a lot of people praying about it, so something's really going on down there. And he's the judge, he's the one in charge. No matter what man does, no matter what government does, no matter what the hospital, no matter what anybody does, he's in the ultimate control. And so he's looking at the situation. And little bitty miracles start to begin. Like, for example, the miracle of my sister telling me the medical terms that need to be said to this doctor and to get the law, that is the case law of Karsten, into my hands so we can see exactly what they're seeing. That's getting them to do these tests. Okay, that's a miracle in and of itself. If we didn't get that, we wouldn't have been able to shut down the morphine. Okay, so that itself was a miracle and kept us going forward. You understand how this is working? So as you see, literally with your own eyes, you see the Father helping you. It strengthens you. It empowers you because you know you're His child. That is the Father. Okay, I don't call Him God. He is my Father. I am His Son. End the conversation. You guys can call Him, you can say God bless you all you want to. I will always say Father bless you because He's my Father. He's not God. Okay, He is my Father. You have to know who you are. And I'm going to be making a video about who you are. You're going to know who you are. And you are really going to know who you are when I'm done with that video. But once you know who you are, you're going to get tested. Just get ready. Okay? Just like Jesus, 40 days, 40 nights in the wilderness, right? No food, no, not wilderness. 40 days, 40 nights, no eating, no drinking, no nothing, right? A miracle in and of itself because you can't survive with no water, no drink for 40 days, right? But immediately, he went into temptation. He went into testing with Satan, right? Turn this rock into bread. Eat because you're hungry. Do this, do that, you know. I'll give you all, look at all these kingdoms on the earth. I'll give them all to you if you'll bow down and worship me. Nope. Okay? What did he say? It is written. 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 So one of the things we did while we were down there praying, we said, Father, it is written that if we will confess our sins, you will be faithful and just to forgive us of our sins and to cleanse us of all unrighteousness. To cleanse us. And so, Father, we confess our sins and we laid out any sin that we knew of in our life at this point. Any that we knew of. And by doing that, we put His word before our Father. We said, Father, it is written. You said, if we do this, this is what you'll do. Therefore, that's what you're going to do. So, Father, cleanse us, forgive us, and if there's anything that we're unaware of sin-wise, forgive us of the, you said you would cleanse us of all unrighteousness if we will confess any sin that we're aware of. So that's what we did. And so we did all the praying. And we're sitting there and we're talking to each other. And we're like, okay, so according to their numbers, this baby is having withdrawals. Okay? It's having withdrawals. Is having withdrawals. Not severe in any way, form, or fashion, but there is signs of withdrawal. And so me and her got to talking about some things. And at this point, she hasn't been able to breastfeed. The baby hasn't learned to latch onto the breast yet at this point. So been basically bottle feeding at this point. And she's been pumping, but again, when you first start pumping, you get very little, and as you keep pumping, you get more and more and more. And at first it's colostrum, and then it becomes milk, the whole process of how all that works. So, basically the baby hasn't been getting any of mommy's milk, basically, for the most part. I mean, a little bit here and there, but not very much. So, we talked to each other and we said, okay, so we'll go upstairs because they got the pump, they got medical pump, the hospital pumps up there, which are the best pumps, And I said, when we go back up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get you on that pump. We're going to get milk out of them breasts, and start getting it into the child, and see if it has any effect whatsoever on the child. So that was the game plan. Now, in the meanwhile, after we're done praying, and we agreed on all that, and we started looking over the entirety of the situation, exactly how we scored and all that kind of stuff. And me and her sat down there and we discussed the numbers. So, he had a 99.1. Okay, that was a point. Well, any baby can have 99.1. I mean, that's 1 degree above normal temperature. Heck, half the time that I measure my own temperature, I'm at 99 degrees. Me. But I work outside and I do all those kinds of things. So if you were to remove that number, in other words, you didn't count it because he's 99 degrees, then that's 1 less point. So instead of being a 10, he would be a 9. Okay, we're running this again. We're communicating with each other. We're talking to each other, working this all out. Now you're dealing with 2 people in wheelchairs, right? I got an ankle problem, and the wife has just had a serious C-section surgery. So, but this is what we have to do. We are not leaving this child. We're not abandoning this child. We're not going to allow them to do anything to this child until we have clarity on exactly what the hell is going on here. Period. I mean, it didn't matter. They kept trying to force it and force it and force it and over and over and over and over and. But we finally found that little miracle in there where we could get that part shut down long enough to get to the morning. Okay, And so we had these little miracles, guys, are everything. That is what strengthens your faith, because you're literally, you see with your own eyes your Father at work, operating, functioning, doing things. Like the fire alarms and all the crazy stuff that went just wild right after that whole entire episode of me explaining who I am and who this child is and all these kinds of things. And this is directly to people that believe in God. Okay? Like I said, I don't call him God. He is my Father. I know who I am. I am his child. I am a born again believer. I am born again, born not of the will of the flesh, okay? Not the will of man or will of the flesh, but born by the Spirit. I didn't ask to start seeking the truth. The truth entered into me, the Spirit of truth, and I started to seek the truth. I didn't ask to be born again. He caused me to wake up and to be born again and to trust in him and to get in his word and to learn his ways and his instructions and how to live this life and determine who you are and what we're supposed to be doing on this earth. And again, all that stuff starts taking place, okay? So the main doctor goes home with all of this on her head, okay? As well as the day nurse, because she experienced it all too. And the night nurse, because she happened to come in right as this was all going down. So all people that are involved in doing these tests had to experience all of that. Plus the miracle of like I said, my sister coming up with the terminology, asking for the records, all these kinds of different things. All of these little miracles all are starting to come together to begin to shift and to begin to change the entirety of the situation and to begin to remove the, quote, assumption that these people were operating under. We're figuring out that they're working on an assumption, but we're also realizing that the baby has some signs of withdrawal. We started to look at exactly what all Christina was putting into her body while the baby was developing in the womb. And what we realized was that Christina smokes cigarettes, okay? And you guys can judge her if you want to judge her, but understand what the scriptures tell you. Judge not, lest you be judged. So, unless you have zero sin in your life, it would be wise of you to not judge anybody. Because when you judge people, he then judges you. And he is the judge. We aren't, okay? Those people that are out here who go around judging other people have judgment coming upon themselves from the Father. The Father is the judge. And when he judges, he executes his judgment into your life. And your life itself will turn in such a direction in order to discipline you. Because whom the Father loves, he disciplines. So when he judges, he's not judging to condemn you, but he's judging you. And when he judges you, things happen in your life that cause you to realize your error. In other words, your life can become a living hell, for example, or certain things can happen in such a way that what it does is it causes you to recognize your sin, your error. And when you do recognize that sin or that error that has come from the Father by the mechanisms in your life, whether it's your job, your family, your friends, your whatever it is, he'll bring things into your life that will create kind of a chaos in such a way that it will cause you to see your error so that you can confess your error and then turn 180 degrees and walk away from your error and walk in the instructions of his word. But if you don't have the word and you're not staying in the word and you're not getting the word in you, you're never going to recognize your sin, and therefore you will continually be under judgment, and that judgment is discipline. Okay? You don't have the right to judge anybody because you yourself have error in your own life. He is the judge. So just keep all these things in mind and understand that yes, she was smoking cigarettes. And so it began to click to us that if there is any withdrawal whatsoever in this baby, it has nothing to do with methamphetamine, because there's no methamphetamine in her, therefore none in the baby, and never has been. And the only thing that this withdrawal could be from is nicotine. So it became important that we begin to pump her breast and get milk out of her breast one way or another. Now, with the other two children that we have, she was not capable of pumping from her breast. The first baby, who is now 11 years old, a girl, was bottle fed. She never would latch on to the breast, and she's 11 years old now. Wonderful young lady, just amazing young lady. Our 18-month-old, he latched onto the breast. He never was bottle fed. He breastfed for literally 16 months. And then this baby, we hadn't been capable, she hadn't been able to get any not much. She would hear a little bit here and there, but not much milk out of her breast. So the baby wasn't getting any sort or form or fashion of nicotine shots to help the baby come down off of the withdrawals. Now, she smoked with all of her babies, all of them. So, and all of them have turned out just fine. But again, if you want to judge, that's fine. Just remember what the scriptures tell you about judging. Okay, so as she begins to pump and the baby begins to receive even little bitty doses of her breast milk, the baby is beginning to get nicotine. And as the baby begins, when the next test came, okay, when the next test came, the nurse comes in, me and her, tired as all get out, sit there and we watch the entire test process again, and we, make sure she does it right. We trust this nurse. We absolutely trust her. She's absolutely trustworthy. Absolutely. And same with our day nurse, by the way. Okay? And the doctor. Okay? Again, it's not, the people are not wicked, it's the policy. So she comes in and she does the test, and we watch, and the end result was that the baby got an 8. He dropped 2 points. Okay? Not a 7. It's got to be a 7 or less consecutively for 24 hours. Okay? But he's dropped to an 8. Okay? Meaning he's showing less signs of withdrawal. So the nurse said, okay, it seems like your breast milk is helping. Or a combination of the fact that you guys will never ever let go of your child, literally. Literally. You're not letting him sit in the incubator, in the unit, this unit here. You're with your child non-stop, plus the breast milk. Those two things have brought the numbers down. We'll see what happens from here. His numbers could literally just go right back up. Well, we'll see what happens from here. So we go through the same process, back and forth, trying to stay awake, blah blah blah. Passing the baby back and forth. And then it literally got to the point, guys, that neither one of us could stay awake. And so we started to doze with the baby. That's a no-no in the hospital. Nurse comes in and says, can't do that. Can't let you do that. You cannot, it's dangerous. You drop your baby, whatever. You roll over on your baby. You're sitting on a recliner. You move one little bit, you crush your baby. I can't, no, But I'll tell you what I'll do. I will hold your baby for you. I will comfort your baby on your behalf. Get you guys some sleep. Now again, we trust this nurse. Absolutely trust her. We know she's a wonderful person. We know she's a beautiful person, a good person, truly cares about the best interest of this baby. We know it. We just know. She's proven it over and over and over again. So she gets ready to take the baby, and she's going to hold the baby for the until we wake up. And she hears my wife groaning and hurting and in a lot of agony. Remember, she just had the C-section, guys. She's trying to sleep in a recliner, not in a bed. You understand, we are suffering throughout all this. Suffering. Okay? This is not easy on either one of us. Here I am trying to recover from my broke ankle. Here she is trying to recover from a major surgery that just happened 2 days ago. Okay? Understand what we're dealing with here. And we're doing all of this for Karsten's sake. But the nurse said, go ahead and take your medicine that that was prescribed to you, and you don't need to be in pain. And my wife looked over and said, no, I have not taken a single dose of the medicine that was given to me. I won't, because y'all will pull it up on a lab test and then take this baby away. And then the doctor said, oh, that's why you're not taking it. She said, that's right. Look at my package. It's not open. Y'all can run every lab you want. You will not find meth. You won't find anything, and you will not even find the medicine that I'm supposed to be taking in that baby's system, going through my milk into him. You will not find it. You will not prove what you're trying to prove. And that nurse said, no, look. We're not trying to prove anything. Okay? Take your medicine. We cannot hold that against you. We prescribed that to you to get you through the pain. Okay? Now, my wife wanted ibuprofen. That's what works for her. Of course, they give her a narcotic instead, which I can't stand the fact that they do that. Ibuprofen, 800 milligram ibuprofen, helps her more than any other thing to recover from pain. And it's non-narcotic, non-addictive. But they want to give her narcotics. Okay? That's why she refused to take them. Because she didn't want narcotics in her son. Everything we are doing for our son. He is a son of the living God. He is the creation of the living God, molded by the very hands of God, a temple that our Father himself molded, this temple inside of a womb for his spirit to dwell in. Each and every baby that comes into this world, that's what it is. A temple built by the hands of God in the womb of a man for his spirit to dwell in. So she goes ahead and she takes her medicine now that, it's clear that it's not going to be held against her or any of all this kind of stuff. She, finally gets, after about 40 minutes or so, it kicks in and she's able to go to sleep, and I go to sleep, we doze out, or we're out. They hold our baby, okay? And the baby got so quiet, so calm, okay? When we wake up to the nurse coming in to run the test, okay? The 4 hours later. So we slept 4 hours in that run. Actually, we slept literally 3 hours and 22 minutes. But anyway, she comes in the room and with the baby and sets him in the unit, because they do the test here in these units, okay? And sets the baby down in the unit. We both wake up as she's coming in. We hear the door open, all that stuff, and sets the baby down. And we're like, okay, did you take care of our baby all night? Did you hold him like you said you would? She said, actually, let me tell you what happened. I was holding the baby, and your baby got so calm, so relaxed, so quiet, so peaceful, that we brought the bassinet over and set your baby down right next to us, and your baby did absolutely perfect. Like, we know what the score is going to be before we even do it, because all the signs that you get without doing anything, the screaming, the not sleeping good, all that stuff, your baby's doing perfect. He didn't need us. But again, it was just a foot away from us. And she's, I'm absolutely blown away. Well, I was going to hold him all night for you guys so they wouldn't cry and all this stuff, but we didn't need to. We set him in his bassinet right next to us, and he slept all the way through until now when we brought him over here so we can do the test. So, basically a congratulations without saying congratulations to us. So, sets the baby down into the system, runs the test on the baby, and the baby scores a 6. 1 point below 7, guys. 1 point below 7. He's now in the run. He's got an opportunity now. He's got the opportunity to get out in 24 hours. Okay? We continue to breastfeed and bottle feed together because, again, she's not producing enough milk, but enough milk to give the baby a nicotine fix. Okay? The baby is addicted to nicotine, not methamphetamine, nor amphetamine. Neither one. Like they were making the assumption, and we're going to drug this baby and do all these things to this baby based on complete and utter assumption, based on policy and procedures and insurance. Take the baby away from us. Everything else, unbelievable. So another 4 hours goes by. We're going into day shift. So night shift and day shift come together, do the test together. The baby scores a 4. 4 hours later, the baby scores a 4. We're in the day shift. Baby is consistently scoring a 4. The doctor, who went home last night comes into the room and says, well, guys, your baby's a totally different person today. You'll go home at 3:30 with your baby. It's withdrawals from nicotine. It's no big deal. They were going to destroy this baby's life because of policy, and remove this baby from us because of policy. They say that they're doing what is best for the baby. They're doing what is best for the policy, procedures, and insurance. And there's no telling how many people have lost their babies every week in that hospital, in hospitals all over the United States, based on assumptions. And if they didn't lose their babies, they got drugged up babies that now will have side effects and everything else the rest of their life. Remember, the baby's only 2 days old, and they were pushing hard, and I mean very hard, to begin the procedures. Ladies and gentlemen, we watched a miracle take place. Step by step by step. We watched doctors cry, walk out of the room, as we put them in their place. Officers stand down, thinking they were going to do something. Couldn't do anything, because everything they were doing was assumption, because there was a positive lab result. And the reality of it is that the way that these urine samples and stuff are taken is that there can be up to 3 to 4 different cups in one single box, and none of them are labeled as to what woman peed in that cup. But there's 4 cups in that box, and then eventually at some point the nurse or whatever takes those 4 cups and labels them. Now, people got good memory. I understand that. 4 people put their deal in there. Okay, that one was that one, that one was that one, that one. No problem. People have good memory. But no one has a perfect memory, meaning nobody's going to get it right each and every single time. That test result, that positive result, had nothing to do with my wife. That was somebody else's pee. And that baby never had meth in it. She never had meth in her. Never had amphetamine in her. Nothing. Yet they were about to take the baby away and drug the baby and put the baby in foster care and all these totally different, crazy, wild things. And if we didn't know who we were, and if we didn't know what our authority was, and if we didn't have our Father in heaven to pray to and to intercede on our behalf, this baby would have been destroyed. Guys, you have got to learn who you are. You have to learn His power and that He's on your side. He wants nothing but good for you. He knows the plans that He has for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you. You must learn who you are, and you must walk in the authority of who you are. That is the problem on the earth today, and why these governments and these facilities and all these different things have the power that they have. Now, we have to deal with CPS, unfortunately. I can't wait for that day when CPS is absolutely and utterly shut down to the core, because it has too much authority, and it's nothing but a child trafficking device. That's all it is. Organization to child traffic. Again, CPS is all compartmentalized, so nobody sees the full picture, just like the nurses couldn't see the full picture, how it was based on assumption and not fact, and all these different things, and how they're convinced that the baby is addicted to methamphetamine, which the baby's not, but it's passed down to them that they are. It's compartmentalized, so they never got the proof. They just made the assumption based on what they were told. And on it goes, guys. It's compartmentalized, so nobody can see the full picture. And understand, like I said, these people worship God, they love God, they're Christians. And yet this is what they're doing to children. Again, this is why I didn't use a single name of a single person, because they're not wicked people, and they can't see the full picture. But there's 3 nurses that do now, and 2 doctors. And a doctor, and 4 doctors, 3 doctors. The C-section doctor, the pediatrician, and the NICU doctor that see what they couldn't see before. And you don't think that doctor went home after hearing everything she heard come out of my mouth and basically shut her down completely, plus set her free from her policy and her insurance and procedures and stuff, set her completely free of it, and have all these fire alarms and all this chaos going on in the hospital, death after death taking place in the hospital, code blue twice, code autumn whatever, and all this stuff going down immediately after I said all that, when for 3 days nothing like that happened in the hospital, nothing, and nothing afterwards, by the way, no more codes, not that night, not the next day, nothing, okay, just that moment. That doctor had to consider all that stuff that happened, and then come in the next day and see a totally different, changed baby, and realize what she was doing. Think about that. So guys, thank you for the prayers, every one of you that prayed. We appreciate it with all of our hearts. Please learn who you are. And I'm going to get a video out to you as soon as I'm able to, guys. Right now, I've got an infant and an 18-month-old that it takes, and I can't get around very good. She can't get around very good. So, I mean, I can get around crutches, all so it's going to be a minute before I can get to really, truly making videos, guys. I got to take care of my children first. They're first and foremost, period. But I'll try to get the videos out as I can. We're struggling like crazy, guys, but it is what it is. It doesn't matter to me. I trust my Father in heaven, and that's all that matters to me, is my Father in heaven. I know He'll take care of us. He has taken care of us, and He's rescued His son. His son. Notice I said He's my son, but He is His son first and foremost, and then my son. I'm just here to take care of what He handed to me. He belongs to the Father, to our Father, not me. We're just the vehicles through which He came in. We're the ones that were given accountability over Him. So guys, I love you guys. Remember, get in the Word. And stay in it, guys. Get in the Word, stay in the Word, get the Word in you. Very important. Remember, other than the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the two most important things are love and truth. And after love and truth, peace and justice. Talk with you guys later.